This could be a make-or-break week for new federal gun laws, but President Obama is not going here today to Capitol Hill. Instead, he is going here to Connecticut, the site of a massacre so heinous that 4 states have already tightened their own gun laws in less than 4 months, Connecticut among them. The measure signed into law in Hartford, Connecticut, just last Thursday, is far more restrictive than anything likely to pass through Congress. A pared-down Senate bill includes an expansion of gun buyer background checks, a crackdown on so-called buyers, people who buy guns for people who are barred from buying guns, and also a boost in funding for school security. I want to bring in CNN's Dan Lothian, who is already at the University of Hartford awaiting the president, and then Jeffrey Toobin, who is here with me in New York. Dan, if I could start with you, please. The gun rights advocates are certainly, they're not shy in suggesting that the president and his administration are using tragedy and they're exploiting it for political gain. But the White House, it's not backing down from this, and it's certainly not kowtowing to that as well.
That's right. They are not backing down from this. In fact, a White House official telling me that today, when the president makes his remarks here, which, by the way, they're expected to last about 20 minutes or so, he will talk about the obligation that lawmakers have to take some action, make some movement on these gun proposals. He will also talk about the fact that Newtown families have played an important role here in Connecticut in getting those stricter laws that you were just talking about passed here, signed into law just last week, those universal background checks, also a limit on the magazine clips as well. And so, no, you know, what the White House often says when they're criticized on this issue is that right after the Newtown shootings, there was this big outcry from both sides of the aisle, people saying that action needed to be taken. A lot of promises were made, and now the White House says everyone needs to deliver on those promises. So they don't believe that they're using these families. They're just showcasing these families to try to prevent something like this from happening again. And
certainly the families have not been shy on speaking out as well. They have been at Capitol Hill. They were on 60 Minutes last night, many of them in lockstep with what the administration is saying. Jeffrey, I want to jump over to you for a moment, if you will. A lot of people who are critical of these universal background checks, and let's just state for the record that a lot of people across the country favor them, to the tune of about 90% of those asked, depending on the question. But their fear, those who oppose, is that this could either lead to a registry, a federal registry of gun owners, or it might be a slope towards that. What's the legality of a federal registry of gun owners?
Well, I don't think there is any question but that this is a legal thing for the government to do. It's a political question about whether the government wants to do it or not. But the Second Amendment, as interpreted by the Supreme Court, has only been interpreted to mean that individuals have a right to a handgun in their home for self-protection. There is no Supreme Court case that says there can't be background checks. Background checks have not been invalidated anywhere in the country since the Supreme Court started interpreting the Second Amendment this way. So I don't think this is a legal issue. It is very much a political issue.
And there is always an interpretation. Like you said, this latest interpretation the Supreme Court gave us was about having a handgun in your home. But we've had certainly lots of interpretations that you can't have an RPG. So what would a background check make the difference? There's absolutely no mention in the Second Amendment about keeping lists.
Well, certainly the Second Amendment is a bit of a moving target. I mean, since the Supreme Court has gotten more conservative in the last 10 years or so, it is certainly true that the definition of the Second Amendment has been expanded by the justices in 2008 and 2009. But there is no case anywhere in the country that suggests that a registry is unconstitutional. And this is really, I think, a test of American democracy. There are not many issues where 90% of the American people agree about anything. But here you have 90% of the public, and it's not even clear this issue will even come up for a vote. It's an amazing statement about how Congress works.
And again, I want to point out again, when you look at those numbers on the screen, 91% supporting universal background checks for gun buyers. Sometimes it really does depend on how you ask the question, because a lot of times those numbers dip in support when you say, even if you want to pass your gun to your brother or within your family or etc., and then people change their viewpoint. So it's very easy to that question when it's such a wide-ranging question. It does change somewhat. Nonetheless, there is a very strong support for that. Gentlemen, I have to leave it there, but we're certainly going to continue covering this story today as the president continues his work in Connecticut today, Hartford, Connecticut. Dan Lothian and Jeff Toobin, thank you both.